We've all heard horror stories about contractors. Cost overruns, missed deadlines, poor workmanship, and what's even worse, a contractor that disappears before the work is completed. But there are ways to avoid these problems. Join us today on Warren County Preserves to learn how. Welcome to Warren County Preserves. I'm Joan Needham. The restoration and rehab of our historic sites, like this house on State Street, is a gift to our community, allowing everyone the ability to actually experience the past.
I think restoring an old home is a terrific thing, and it's very well worth the effort, the frustration sometimes, and the time it takes. Because when you're finished, if you've done it right, what you have is an example of the work of both the craftsmen and the visionaries, the owners of these homes that lived in this community 100 or more years ago. And it's a reminder of why this community is a great community, because it's built on good, solid principles of design, principles of vision for what a community should be. And it's really worth that journey.
As important as preservation is to our community, it can be challenging. Hiring a dependable, reliable, and licensed contractor can be the most important step you take.
With regards to restoring an old house, obtaining the services of a licensed contractor is something I highly recommend. It is important to have somebody who's going to be with you on this job, on this sometimes often strange and winding road, the journey of exploration and restoration, which is really what restoration is about, and that is going to stand behind the work. There are a lot of people out there that say that they can work in restoration, but haven't gone through the effort to become licensed, bonded, insured. Those are all important things, because working on a house, an old house in particular, does hold mysteries. But it also holds some potential hazards in the unfolding of those mysteries.
The Bowling Green Warren County Contractors Licensing Board agrees that not only is licensing important to the success of your project, but it is the law. They offer several suggestions for hiring a contractor. First, ask for their license number. Write the number down and call the board to verify the validity and current status of the license. Also check to be sure the contractor is insured against claims covering workers' compensation, property damage, and general liability. It is a state law that a contractor who has employees must cover these employees with workers' compensation insurance. Obtain recommendations from friends, check references, and call the Builders Association of Bowling Green. The Builders Association holds their members to a high standard of excellence, and registered builders have signed an agreement with the association that they will submit to mediation should a disagreement arise between the buyer and the builder. Don't be afraid to investigate the contractor by having him or her fill out an application. There are several more ways you can protect yourself and find the right contractor for you. When we return, we'll hear more advice from the Bowling Green Warren County Contractors Licensing Board and property owner Dorian Walker. Welcome back to Warren County Preserves. When restoring or rehabilitating your old building, working with a licensed contractor is essential. Dorian Walker also stresses the importance of finding a contractor who is familiar with working on old buildings.
You need to find somebody that has patience, has the ability to want to understand the process of the restoration of a house, because you have to realize houses that were built, particularly houses built in the 19th century, they're over 100 years old. The material scales are different today than they were there. At that point, the way that some of the construction went on is different than it is today. So you need to find somebody that is willing to take the time and the effort to and the pleasure to want to take that journey with you, because it truly is a journey.
When considering a contractor, be especially wary of unsolicited door-to-door salespeople and telephone solicitors. Some may offer a reduced price for a limited time only, or claim they have just completed a job nearby and have materials left over, or they may offer to use your home as a demonstration model. Don't fall prey to these kinds of sales tactics. Be wary of people who offer gifts, prizes, cash rebates, or other special inducements. These inducements are against the law. Beware of contractors who offer to finance your project for you. Do not sign a note they draw up because they could place a lien on your house. Be aware of unmarked trucks and vans, as well as the use of post office boxes. You should always require the street address of the contractor and make sure it is not just an answering service. Finding the right contractor for you and your job is only the first step. A very important second step is to obtain all estimates in writing and get a contract. A written contract spelling out all the details should always be used, even on small projects. Avoid contractors who refuse to put anything in writing. Keep in mind, any promises that the contractor makes will be difficult to enforce unless they are in writing. The contract should contain full name, street address, and phone number of the contractor, as well as the property owner, an agreed upon price, cost for changes, complete description of the work to be done, material to be used, cleanup after the work is completed, and payment schedule. Have in the contract how long the complete job will be warrantied. The normal time for a structure is 1 year from completion. The equipment, such as an HVAC system and roof, will have a longer warranty. The contract should include starting and ending dates. You might want to include a clause that requires a contractor to pay a specified sum of money for each day of delay beyond the scheduled end date. There are 3 basic types of construction contracts: stipulated sum, time and materials, and management. With a stipulated sum contract, you pay a fixed price that can only be modified with a written change order. This type of contract should include a detailed estimate. Time and materials contracts are for small jobs. The drawbacks are that you have no way of knowing how long the job will take, you pay for all the mistakes, and comparison shopping is difficult, if not impossible. With the management contract, the manager works as a consultant for a fee that is usually about 10% of the contract. The drawbacks for this type of contract are that there is a conflict of interest, since the contractor's fee increases when the amount of work increases, and it shifts partial responsibility for the work onto the property owner. Be sure of your contractor before you give any startup money. Most established contractors do not require this money. A good rule of thumb is not to pay for materials that are not on site or labor that has not been performed. Never release the final payment until the project is completed according to the contract. You should also have proof that all the suppliers and contractors have been paid. Don't forget permits. You must have all the proper permits before the job begins, including a building permit and possibly plumbing and electrical permits. The permits are normally obtained by the contractor as part of the overall job cost, but should be spelled out in your contract. You are ultimately responsible if the permits are not pulled. The key to a successful working relationship with a contractor is communication and planning. Changes cost money, but are unavoidable. A working plan and constant communication can help keep costs to a minimum.
So you really need to be careful in your planning, which is again where if you get a good licensed contractor, this can be helpful to you, that you set up a goal, you set up a plan, something that you work hard to adhere to, because you're going to find surprises along the way where this plan may have to shift. But if you can keep within the ballpark and keep the communications line open between you and the contractor, it's really essential to the success of your project.
To avoid misunderstandings, make sure that your agreement with the contractor concerning both the changes and costs are put in writing and added to the original contract. Even when you have carefully checked out a contractor, put together a strong contract, and kept the line of communication open, misunderstandings can happen. Take time to talk with your contractor about your project and try to work out any disagreements. If problems persist, it is a good idea to document your side of this dispute by putting in writing all the issues that need to be resolved. Send a copy to the contractor and keep one for your file. If work is not completed according to the terms of the contract, you have the option to pursue legal action against the contractor. You can also file a consumer complaint with the contractor's licensing board. Keep in mind that the board cannot force the contractor to provide financial restitution, nor does the board provide quality control. The restoration or rehabilitation of an old house or building doesn't have to be a horror story. Be wary, use the resources available to you, find a contractor that fits with you and your project, and put everything in writing. Call the Contractor's Licensing Board before you hire.